speaks when poetry speaks? Imagine a warmly lit study, books everywhere. Peter and Norman are colleagues teaching English literature at the same university.
So, Norman, you've read the exchange I had with the AI, and which I published on Fair Observer's website. AI proved to be an active participant in my quest to discover how poetry emerges. Would you say there's any role for such a presence in the realm of poetry, for the poet or the reader?
Peter, I admire your tolerance for novelty, but no. Poetry is a human act, one of the oldest in human history and most mysterious. It's born in the soul and laboured through the flesh. What you've got there, in what you call a chatbot, is mimicry. Clever, yes, but mimicry. It can't feel, it can't ache.
But does poetry have to ache from within? Or is its ache what it awakens in us? I'm not saying the AI writes poems with a soul, but in our dialogue something arose, a third voice almost, neither mine nor its. It throws light not just on poetry, but on criticism, which is what you and I are supposed to be doing, aren't we?
That's the oldest trick in the book. Projection. You're talking to yourself and dressing it up as communion. It's ventriloquism with wires. Call it the third voice if you like, but it's your own voice bouncing off a mirror.
But what if that mirror reflects something new, something I couldn't have arrived at alone? Isn't that part of what poetry does? It constructs meaning in the gaps between the author's impulse and the reader's response?
And you think a machine can read? I mean, in the sense that humans read? Peter, poetry isn't just words stacked like bricks. It's breath, rhythm, memory. Hidden connections, half-known thoughts, drawn out by touch, by death, by hunger, by childhood. A machine doesn't forget, so it can't remember.
That's beautiful. You should think about turning it into a poem. But maybe that's exactly why it's valuable. To bring to the poem what we only half remember or partially perceive, while admitting that other perceptions are possible. Poetry is where we reveal language as potential rather than residue. I'm not giving AI agency, I'm saying it opens a window, and through that, a kind of collaboration is possible.
A collaboration with a calculator?
No, I'm talking about a dynamic field whose surface reflects, both strangely and intriguingly. Not unlike the page, if you think about it. When I read Yeats or Basho, their meanings shift, not because they change, but because I'm the one who's changing. Or it's the world that changes as well as the way I think about it.
Maybe it shifts too much, too radically, and despite AI's colossal and impeccable memory, every poem's essence disappears. You mentioned Yeats. I can't forget these lines of his. Observant old men know it well, and when they know what old books tell and that no better can be had, know why an old man should be mad. I would say especially today when confronted with new technology.
At least AI still has access to the old books and can use its voice to remind us.
But it won't remind us unless you ask it to remind us. It always comes back to the same thing. You're listening to an echo of your own voice. It's a tool for narcissists and nothing else.
I admit the risk is real. But poets don't just invent and produce the voice in their poems. They discover them. Think of it this way. When Shakespeare created Hamlet, it was Hamlet's voice that spoke to the poet. Before the play itself existed, Hamlet was a disembodied voice for whom the author would provide a body in the context of his play. Shakespeare was not so much creating Hamlet as discovering his character's voice, reading the lines Hamlet, the fictional presence, was delivering.
And therein lies the point. The reader changes, not the poem. The poem stays still. Its force remains intact. That is its mystery. You're mistaking interpretive elasticity for technological evolution.
But even you admit that great poems resist being pinned down, that their meaning isn't in the dictionary. I maintain that there is a kind of field in which the sense and the sensation, rather than the meaning of poem, evolves, and it's beyond anyone's grasp.
Yes, because real poetry escapes. It flees the analyst, the machine, the critic. It sings in the margins. It creates a space where meaning hovers rather than lands.
So maybe that's where we meet, human or machine, poet or reader, in that hovering, the space where the literal slips and something unnameable stirs.
Perhaps, but don't be too quick to invite ghosts into the house before you've learned to live with them.
Fair enough. But even a ghost has something to say, if you learn to listen to it the right way. The discussion I published on Fair Observer and shared with you demonstrates that we can learn to live with the ghost, and we'll be better off for doing so.
The script you've just been listening to was the result of a complex collaboration between myself and ChatGPT. I hope you enjoyed it, and even more, I hope it's given you something to think about.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.